The David Hall cabin, built in 1798, has had its 200-year history preserved. Libby Bumgardner now owns the cabin that her grandfather and grandmother owned in the early 1900s. She bought the cabin in 1995 and has worked to restore it, and in the process has found the cabin's long history, beginning with its first of 4 owners.
Rascal owned it between 1798 and 1803. He owned the property, and the deed says he got George Walker to build the cabin for him. And then 1803, David Hall bought it from Brassett, since my grandfather inherited it from his own lives. I'd say he got some of her furniture and chairs. My grandfather was 34, and my grandmother was 14 when they got married. And he had never been married, so he worked for the railroad since he was 18. So he was gone all the time, like 6 months at a time, and she was on her own. And she gave birth to 11 children in the cabin, raised them virtually by herself. And it's been here all these years, and almost no one knew about it. It's not even me. It's just great to be able to save it for future generations. And the Hall cabin was built right here on this side.
My name is Ralph Martin, and I'm the 4th great-grandson of David Hall that was at Kings Mountain during the Revolutionary War. And I was born here in the same county that he's in. Actually, one of his other grandsons, Dr. James Hall, is the one that delivered me at home. There's quite a few people here in the county that are still here that are related to David Hall. Myra Hall, that is David Hall's daughter, married Daniel Yarnell. And the Daniel Yarnell was they were Quakers when they came out of Pennsylvania and came down through North Carolina in the late 1700s. In the early 1800s, they were in Knox County over at Ball Campground. And then Daniel Yarnell moved over to Clinton Highway, and he stayed there and died in 1880.
When David Hall left, when the land was being divided, he was always saying, leaving out a half acre for a family cemetery. There's a lot of graves out there that are not marked, or just marked with millstones. There's supposed to be slaves buried out there also.
The David Hall cabin has seen illness and death through the years. Ghost hunters have come and said that some spirits are still there. Others who have stayed the night say they have also seen ghosts of previous residents.
My name is Bear Brooks. I'm camped out here at the David Hall cabin, and Friday night, it was a cloudy night, and I was camped out in the backyard of the cabin in my tent. And sometime during the night, I looked up, and there was a little girl sitting on the front porch wearing a gingham dress, blondish hair, had it pulled back, and she sat there real politely with her hands on her lap all night long. I'd wake up a few times, I'd wave at her. She just kept sitting there. And finally, around daylight or so, I didn't see her anymore. And I got up the next day, I started asking questions. Was there ever a little girl here that died? They were like, yeah, there was. And so how big was she? I said, oh, she's about so tall. I said, well, there was a girl here that passed away back in the 1700s, about 13 years old. I said, well, she come to pay a visit last night.
The David Hall cabin welcomes visitors to come see the history that has survived for 200 years. The cabin has 2 open houses each year that feature reenactments and tours of the cabin.
And people are just great to come and visit. They're just amazed. And we have people come and donate things to us, which is highly appreciated.